Welcome to a special edition of The Weakest Link. The 9 people in the studio tonight are used to battling intergalactic monsters.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? My name is Michael Novak. Welcome to Doctor Who Is My Life. And today, it's time to review the episode Bad Wolf, the first episode of the two-parter that will end the first series of the rebooted series of Doctor Who from 2005. Now, as is tradition on the Doctor Who Is My Life channel, we will start the review with a short recap. Now, continuing from the last episode, Captain Jack, Rose, and the Doctor have just left Raxacor-Cephalopatorius when they are all transported via a transmat beam to Satellite 5 in the year 200,100, 100 years after the events of the 7th episode, The Long Game. Satellite 5 is now a game station filled with reality TV shows. The Doctor has been teleported into the Big Brother house, Rose has been transported into the Weakest Link, and Jack has been beamed into a makeover show titled What Not to Wear. They all think it's a big joke until the Doctor realizes that contestants that are voted off the program get disintegrated. Now, fearing for Rose's safety, he damages company property in order to be voted off in an attempt to get out of the show. He realizes that someone's teleported him to Satellite 5 for a reason, so they don't want to kill him. Meanwhile, Jack has had tons of different makeovers by the droids operating What Not to Wear, and now it's time for the literal face-off procedure where Jack's head is to be removed. Because of this, he pulls a compact laser deluxe out of his ass and shoots the two hosts and escapes. Upon release, he meets up with the Doctor, who's also escaped, together with fellow Big Brother contestant Lynda-with-a-Y. They make their way to floor 407, where Rose is still participating on the Weakest Link. Right as they arrive, in order to save her, she's voted off the program as the Weakest Link and therefore disintegrated. Upstairs at floor 500, the employees working at Satellite 5 are concerned. They've noticed the glitches in the mainframe and therefore go to seek information from the controller, a young blind woman who's been hooked up to the game station for her entire life. She controls and oversees all the games, and we discover that she is in fact responsible for bringing the Doctor to the game station. The Doctor, Jack, and Lynda-with-a-Y have been arrested for interfering with the rules of the game station and are now awaiting to be transported to the Lunar Penal Colony to be held without trial. However, they manage to escape the guards, and the Doctor finds out that the corporation in charge of Satellite 5 is called Bad Wolf. Through every adventure Rose and the Doctor have been on, the words Bad Wolf have been hidden in plain sight, luring them in. They make their way to floor 500 and threaten the staff into submission. A solar flare hits the satellite and the controller calls out for the Doctor. She informs him that the whole setup of the game station has been a disguise all along, controlling the human race and installing the Jackrafes 100 years prior. The perpetrators are hiding in space under a signal, keeping them invisible. The Doctor manages to override the signal and bring them into plain sight with the help of the controller, who is then teleported away and killed. And now we discover that it is in fact the Daleks that have been behind everything. They managed to survive the Time War and have been hiding in the sky for hundreds of years, waiting to attack. There are now almost 500,000 Daleks and 2,000 ships awaiting war. The Daleks open a communications channel upon discovering that they have been spotted by the Doctor in order to speak to him. We also discover that Rose has not been murdered, but merely transported to the Dalek ship. The Daleks hold her as prisoner in order to get the Doctor to surrender. The episode ends with a cliffhanger as the Doctor stands up to the Daleks and promises to save Rose and destroy every single Dalek ship, despite having no weapons, no defenses, and no plan. Alright, now that was a short recap of the episode. Now let's get into the villain of the week, which in this case is exciting because it's the Daleks. Let's talk about them. Now, in short summary, the Daleks are a warrior race of genetically engineered mutants originating from the planet of Skaro. They were created by Davros, a super genius scientist belonging to the qoute race. The qoute race were one of the races that inhabited Skaro and are often seen as the ancestors of the Daleks. The Daleks first appeared in the second episode of the very first season of Doctor Who from 1963. The Daleks were responsible in part for the Great Time War, where they fought against the Time Lords. It was believed that they were all destroyed in the war, taking all the Time Lords with them. They survived, however, through the Dalek Emperor, whose ship survived, falling through time. The Dalek Emperor created an entirely new race of Daleks, using deceased humans. Now, it's safe to say that in the Doctor Who universe, the Daleks are immortal, and they have actually faced off against every single incarnation of the Doctor through the 59-year history of the show. Alright, now let's get into my review of this episode. My favorite scene in this episode is actually the beginning, where the Doctor is teleported into the Big Brother house. It's so funny to me, the way that he acts, and it's just like, ugh, fucking reality TV. It's just... I think it's amazing. I think it's brilliant.
You are live on channel 44,000. Please do not swear.
You have got to be kidding.
It's only a game show. She'll make a fortune on the outside, sell a story, release a record, fitness video, all of that. She'll be laughing.
Now, my least favorite scene of this episode is, to no one's surprise, yet again, a scene with Rose. The scene where she acts all smug and arrogant in The Weakest Link before she finds out that she will be killed if she loses really bothers me and annoys me. I think this scene is a perfect example of Rose's age. Seriously, she's supposedly 19 years old, and we see her acting like a fucking child on this show, which is, I guess, to be expected when you're 19, but at the same time, I didn't act that way when I was 19, but what do I know?
In the Holodeck series, Jupiter Rising, the Grexnik is married to whom?
How should I know?
Now let's talk a little bit about the show being able to quote itself. I think it's amazing that at this point the rebooted series has been around for such a long time that it can now start to quote itself. There are tons of callbacks to earlier episodes in this episode. There are actually callbacks to almost every single episode of this entire series. I know Billy Tracy talked about it in his review of Fear and Monsters, how beautiful it is that the show now has a history arc where it's able to quote on itself and make callbacks to earlier episodes. I think it's beautiful because at the time of making this series, they were bringing the show back. So it was hard for them to make callbacks to the classic series because they knew that the majority of people that would be watching would not have heard of the classic series or may not have watched it, may be too young to even remember it. And so they needed to not rely on it for callbacks and for quotes and for references, but now they are able to do it themselves, and it's beautiful.
We are now at a point in which the show can self-reference without going beyond the 2005 mark. It has now built its own pretty solid mythology which it can continue to riff off and add to, which is a considerable achievement that is overlooked now we're so far into the show's current run.
Now let's talk a little bit about my favorite element of this episode, which is the entire premise of spoofing reality TV shows. I think it's so fucking funny. There are so many great moments in this episode based around The Weakest Link and the Big Brother house and what not to wear. It's just so funny to me. And also getting these celebrity cameos in, for example, Ann Robinson as the android. I think it's fucking brilliant. Now, I quickly also want to mention Joyner, who plays Linda Moss, Lynda-with-a-Y, in this episode. She's such a sweet, empathic, and just lovable character. I feel like she's the polar opposite to Rose, and I think that was the point of this character, to make her so sweet and so empathetic and just so great that she would be Rose's counterpart, and it works. She's so sweet, and I bet I'm not the only one thinking throughout this episode and this two-parter that I wish they would have cast her as the companion of the Doctor instead of Rose. Sorry.
Doesn't anybody notice me?
No, you're nice. You're sweet. Everybody thinks you're sweet.
Oh, is that right? Is that what I am? No one's ever told me that before. Am I sweet? Really?
Yeah, that's sweet.
Thank you.
Now let's get into the rating of this episode. I'm actually going to give it 5 out of 5 TARDISes because it is so freaking good, man. It's so great. It's so amazing. Oh my God. There's not a single part of this episode that I do not like, except maybe a little bit Rose and her scenes. But otherwise, what a great, fantastic episode. It was so great. But anyway, it's all food for thought. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this episode. Do you agree with me? Do you think it's fantastic? Or did you think it was ridiculous and too childish? Let me know in the comment section below. And thank you so much for watching this review. My name is Novak. Go check out my main channel that I've been running for over 10 years. I'll see you guys next week for the final review of this series entitled The Parting of the Ways. Thanks for watching. Bye.